let's say I have an initial investment of, let's just say I have like $1,000. And then I say, you know what? Every month, I'm going to contribute $100 a month. Let's say I didn't do this until I was 40. So this will tell you in 25 years, how much money will you have if you start with $1,000 and invest $100 every month consistently? After 25 years, you will have $81,000. But let's say someone sat me down at age 20 instead of age 40. So that's an extra 20 years. So if I change this to 45 years, instead of ending with 81,000, I end with $363,000. So it's not just double, right? So the earlier you start, the more it makes a difference.
The co-founder
Do I
of the
invest?
online pet store Chewy. This made some investors take.
Yeah, I think everyone should invest if you have excess money after you've like paid off any credit card debt, paid off any student loans, paid off any bills, paid rent, bought food. If you have anything left over, you 100% should invest it in something like a 401k or a Roth or a traditional IRA account, and just invest it in like a diversified portfolio where that is not when we talk about investing. What has just happened over the last couple of weeks with this whole GameStop thing is not what we mean by investing. What that is literal gambling and literal terrible advice if anyone tells you that that's what investing is. That's playing the stock market. That's day trading. That's trying to catch a falling knife, right? Like when you're trying to time the market. So like if I buy now and then sell tomorrow, I'll make money. Like that's you're literally playing with fire. And no one in the right mind would recommend you do that unless you know that you're doing it for pure fun and absolutely just for fun. What actual investing is, that's safe, maybe not as exciting, but safe and steady and will, grow your money. That's basically taking any extra money that you have and putting it into a 401k or any retirement account, right? Actually, there's a lot of piglins here. This is not going to be too hard to track them. Into like a 401k or something that's diversified. So people talk about like you want to have a diversified portfolio. What that means is that your money is invested in a variety of different stocks and other kinds of what we call equities, which allows you to grow your money over time. Because typically, on average, if you look back over the last maybe looking back over the last 10 years is not the best time frame because the last 10 years have been absolutely amazing in terms of the stock market growth. I think we've seen like unheard of returns in the stock market over the last 10 years. It's seen some of its best growth. But on average, about a 7%, 5 to 8% return. If you spread your money out across a variety of different stocks or maybe bonds, which are really, really safe. Those are backed by the government. They're not like a company that you're investing in. It's just a governmental investment. Usually especially in the United States, pretty reliable. But yeah, like you just invest in like, a mutual fund usually that covers a variety of different companies. So you're not just in one company. So it's not as risky. Wait, which way am I trying to go here? I'm trying to remember. You and your dad are going to start investing. Yeah, what I wish I had. Wait, I'm right back here. What the heck? How do I get out of here? I always forget which way to go. What I wish I had known is I wish someone had sat me down at your age and said, hey, we're going to open up like a brokerage account together and just kind of give you the basics of how to invest. That would have been really useful because the earlier you start, the more it pays off. And by more, I mean quite a lot. Let me give you an example. Let's look up a compound interest calculator. Watch. So just to give you a general sense of why investing earlier matters. So if any of you are watching right now, how many people? We got only 11 people. Whatever. This is good info. This is good early advice. If you know this already, that's awesome. If not. So, okay, let's say I have a compound interest calculator. All right. So let's say I have an initial investment of, let's just say I have like $1,000. Let's say I start working and someone gives me $1,000 to invest. Like maybe it's a gift, a graduation gift or whatever, or maybe I just get enough extra money after like 1 year of working that I can invest it. So I start with 1,000, and then I say, you know what? Every month I'm going to contribute. Let's just do something really reasonable. Let's say like $100 a month, right? Maybe that's not reasonable. Maybe it is, right? But if I do that for $100 a month, and let's say I didn't have any idea about investing, and I didn't do this until I was actually, let's say I didn't do this until I was 40. So that means that I'm going to have about 25 years until I retire, which would be 65. So we'll say 25 years. And estimated interest rate, we would say, let's say the stock market gives us an average return of 7%. So a 7% interest on my investment. This is interest rate variance range. So this could say, if I say, let's put like 2, so that means it's going to give us 3 different trajectories, whether if the interest rate is 7, or if it's 8 or 9 or 6 or 5. So it's going to say like 2% above or below 7. So if the market is really good at 9%, that's what we'll get. If the market's not as good at 5%, that's what we'll get. Compounded annually. This is the way it works with stock market. So you usually just do an annually compound. Calculate. So this will tell you in 25 years, how much money will you have if you start with $1,000 and invest $100 every month consistently. After 25 years, you will have $81,000 at 7%. You'll have 60,000 at 5%, and you'll have 110,000 at. Wait, can you guys see that? Sorry, let me pull this down. So you can see those are your numbers, right? That's how much money you'll have. But let's say someone sat me down at age 20 instead of age 40. So instead of only having 25 years, I have, well, that's not much for 25 years. Well, I would hope you'd be able to do more than $100 a month, right? I hope you would be able to do like more than that. But I just want to show you the difference between starting at age 40 versus starting at age, let's say you start at age 20. So that's an extra 20 years. So if I change this to 45 years, instead of ending with 81,000, I end with $363,000. So it's not just double. Right? So the earlier you start, the more it makes a difference, right? So now let's say instead of it's compounding interest, man. Compounding interest is insane. By the way, compounding interest is also the reason why the rich get rich faster. Unfortunately, it's just the reason why the wealth gap increases. There's other reasons, but one of the reasons is the more money you have, the faster it grows because of compounding interest. But anyway, let's say, okay, what if I, instead of starting at 20, what if I started at 16, which is the earliest possible age you can open a brokerage account, right? Which would give me an extra 4 years. How much does 4 years make a difference? So if I go from 45 to 49, I go from 363,000 to, what does an extra 4 years give me? An extra 4 years gives me almost $100,000 more. Just 4 years. So like if you can start as soon as you can at 16, holy, that even those 4 first years makes incredible amounts of difference. Right? Now imagine if you got instead of estimated return of 7%, right? If the market did what it did over the last let's say 10 years, what is the rate of return of the stock market last 10 years? The average stock market return for 10 years is 9.2%. The S&P has done slightly better at that with an Average annual return of 13.6. So imagine if it's 13.6. Let's just play safe and put 10. Now what do we get? If you start at 16, instead of 482, we get 1.3 mil. 1.3 mil. So the one thing that I learned that I wish someone had sat me down is literally just showed me this. Like, hey, like, guess what? The difference between waiting until you're 30 to start investing versus 20, those 10 years, is huge, right? It's off the charts huge, right? So, and even if you have no money, imagine you have no money to start with, right? You have $0 to start with, but you decide, you know what? I'm just gonna start with $100 a month. Like, even if you're starting, if let's say you're 16, you work at, Target or something, and you're making some money. So maybe instead of spending that $100 a month on, I don't know what you would buy when you're 16. What do you buy when you're 16? Video games or Marcus, bits? Maybe, hey Marcus, instead of buying me bits, why don't you start putting that into the stock market, my dude? Or whatever else you buy, right? Like, just start saving whatever you can and just be consistent about depositing it. So one of the best ways to do it is just like have it set up so it automatically is drawn from your either your paycheck or your bank account, right? So it just goes in there. You don't even have to think about it. It's just like, okay, there's $100 a month that I just don't have to make any decisions with because it's going straight into my retirement account. So I think this is a good thing. So if you want, just go to investor.gov and look at their compound interest calculator. Play around with some numbers, some years, some percentages, and see what you get. But I would say the best piece of advice is to just start small, but be consistent with delivering every month, and that's going to get you a lot. It's going to be huge for you, as you can see. Right. And usually what that means is just, do banks generally compound annually? Yes, but right now banks have absolute garbage interest returns. So if you look at like banks right now are at, like, what is the average savings account interest? 0.05. 0.05. That's literally nothing. Like, your money is doing nothing for you there. You might as well just have it under your mattress. Like, there's really no difference. 0.05 compared to like 10% in the market is like don't even, like, no one told me that. So like I literally had thousands of dollars just sitting in my savings account doing nothing for years. If someone had just sat me down and been like, hey, you can do this, right? I would have been like, huh? So I don't know. That's probably the biggest piece of advice I would give you as far as financial investing. That, and then the second most important piece of advice, do not buy a new car ever unless you are absolutely like flush with cash. And by that I mean like you're making so much money you don't even know what to do with it. Just buy like the most reliable used car you can, because instead of if you pay maybe 5 to 10 grand for a good quality, like reliable used car, instead of buying a new car for like 30 grand, that 20 grand you put into an account, compound it. I got to go back. Yeah, I'm running out of food. We're going to have to finish this up later, unfortunately. Yeah, so I mean, the order of operations for how you save, like to be financially savvy, quote unquote, is basically pay off all of your debts first. Because remember, if you're in debt, meaning you have credit card debt, student loan, any other loans or debts, that you are paying interest to the person who is loaning you the money. So you're losing money very quickly. So you pay off all of your debts Pay for all of your utilities, your living expenses, all of that. And then whatever you have left over, you know, you could save a little bit for fun money, obviously, to have some fun. But whatever's left over, you throw that into an investment account. You know what I mean? That's the rule of thumb. And don't buy new cars. It's the biggest ripoff you could ever imagine. I know that they're nice and shiny and they're cool to look at, but you're wasting your money.